Welcome to Village Square. Today we have with us Sudhanshu Kaushik. He is the founder of this organization called Young India Foundation. He's also brought out a book recently called The Future is Ours. And the organization works for bringing more and more youth into the political fold. Am I right, Sudhanshu?
Absolutely. Yeah.
Okay. So, how are you going about it? And
Yeah.
how did the idea, the seed, come to your mind?
First of all, thanks for having me. It's wonderful to kind of have this opportunity to speak about not only the work that we're doing, but the successes that we've had. When it comes to what we're doing, I would love to take credit. I am someone who loves to take credit, but the reality is the base of what Young India Foundation does is not an idea that I had at NYU or U Chicago or Oxford. Uh, it's an idea that stems from rural India. In fact, I can't take any credit for it. This founding team that we have can't. It's actually a Dalit candidate by the name of Jagbir Kumar, who came up to me while I was doing some, lecture series and trying to. I fell into the trap that many people do about how we need to teach rural India something. And so one of that, this was in 2018, and was doing a sort of a lecture, and Jigby came up to me and said, like, lecture to काफी अच्छा दे देते हो, मेरे लिए क्या करोगे, right? And basically that means is like, you speak well, but what will you do for me? In the fact that I was trying to pitch that young people should contest elections, should actually partake in politics, should be involved in what's happening in their current affairs, not just as a bystander, by contesting elections, not just by voting, but being on the ballot. And he comes up to me and he tells me that I've always wanted to. I don't need you to tell me of something that I already knew, something that I've been working on, but how do we make that a reality? And so that was kind of where this idea of, can we help young people between the ages of 21 to 30 um, actually get on the ballot, right? Get on the EVMs, because while there's inherent interest to do so, there's a lot of complexities. Whether it's something as simple as even filing your nomination paperwork, which 100% of our times all our candidates get in trouble for, this issue, that issue, nonchalant issues, um, or to helping them understand booth management, helping them understand the nuances of actually contesting. So Young India Foundation at this point is trying to bring out young people into the active political civic life by trying to remove barriers. Because it's 2024, we have three ways we do that. The first, and the one that we've always excelled in, is the political action committee, because that's the easiest things that people, the terminology that people will understand. This is where we help young people contest elections. You need help with social media. You need help with manifesto making. You need help with your nomination. You need help with booth management. You need help with volunteers. You need help with how to, for some candidates, wear a sari and deliver their speeches. We'll do it all for free. That's the first thing that we do. Now, because it's 2024, something that we also realized is that voting is a big issue. And this is more of an urban issue than a rural issue.
Right.
But there are 9 crore people between 18 and 30 who do not vote. 9 crore people, that's 90 million. That is literally, the size larger than of Germany and the United Kingdom, right?
Right.
So we decided that there needed to be something. And saying that young people are not interested, we've heard it. There has to be something else. So we work on trying to make it more accessible. We're registering voters, partnered up with several chief electoral offices, obviously the ECI, and going to colleges, going to universities, going to music festivals, and making voting accessible. And then the third aspect of YAF is our Center for Youth Policy. So we believe there's an information gap. Not enough people are talking about youth and civic life. So we try to take these discussions, these conversations, and bring them into mainstream. We've done fantastic reports and researches about India and democracy, etc. So really getting that surveying, that research, that methodology in place, so that whether it's journalists, whether it's politicians, whether it's academics, they can talk on data rather than anecdotes, which we are very sick and tired of when it comes to young people and their political, whether it's decisions or civic life in that way. So that overall is Young India Foundation and how it started.
Wonderful. So your work takes you to both urban youth as well as the rural youth. And Village Square is a platform that is working towards narrowing that gap.
It's fascinating to me, and I talk about these experiences even in my book, about when it comes to voting, urban youth do not care in that way. Yes, it's farther for them. But rural youth, they're getting on their motorcycle, they're paying for the petrol themselves, they're literally getting the chai, thai, tatu, everyone who can, and giving them and getting them to the polling booth. Right? It's that similarity, that familiarity they have with whoever there's contesting. And I've seen that across India. Young people in rural areas are more engaged. But when you think about, kind of like that gap, that disparity, what I think is a bigger issue is how, in many cases, urban youth always feel that if they do something for youth, it's kind of that white man's burden, but urban man's burden in that case, or urban youth's burden. And I don't think that's necessarily the case. Some of the most brightest people, the most resourceful people that I have met, have come from rural India and stay in rural India, and that's an active decision that they're making to play, right? Um, so I think one thing is we might need to leave and come out of that kind of narrative when it comes to, okay, uh, oh, we need to help, or etc. Like you correctly said, though, there are gaps, and how do we meet them? There's not a right answer, especially in the work that we do. One way that we found out to create more understanding is, for example, the candidates. We pick rural seats because we work at a panchayati level. We don't have the resources or the capability to help an MLA or an MP, but we help at a panchayati, sarpanchi, jila parishad level, which is our domain. Now, what we realized is we can get the understanding the resources of urban India. I love sharing this story. We had a candidate. Her name was Inderpreet Kaur. And she, again, was a Dalit candidate. At the age of 21, decided to contest Sarpanchi elections from Sattawali, Punjab, which is about 40 to 45 kilometers from Jalandhar. Very rural area in that way. A village of, I think, around 1,400 votes. And we needed a team. We helped her with the nomination paperwork. It got rejected 3 times, and we finally were able to get it through, etc. So everything was delayed. And then there was a student at DAV Public School in Chandigarh, and she heard on Instagram that we were trying to help in the pre-core. So she messages, sends us a DM, and she's like, I don't know what I can do, but I want to help. And so the team put her into volunteering, etc., whatever. And one day she was singing, and it turns out that she's a music composer. So now she's actually studying in New Zealand as a doctor, and she basically was like, is there anything I can do? And one of the biggest things are jingles and songs and election campaigns. And this person, she didn't know how to speak Punjabi fully, right? And yet she was making this entire Punjabi jingle, this Punjabi song on Inderpreet's campaign. When you talk about bridging the gap, without it being not sounding too much of a charity case, is how do we use the resources that we and the access that we have had just because of the privilege of being urban, right?
Right.
And not necessarily helping, right? Because I think helping makes it sound like a charity case, but uplifting.
So you mentioned about privilege. Now you come from a political family. Your father has been an MLA, Mr. Dinesh Kaushik from Haryana. So you have grown up in that kind of a setup, that ambiance. Has been that a hindrance to you, or has it kind of worked in your favor?
Anything that I have known about politics, the fact that I'm able to discuss booth management, to understand the nuances of policy making, comes from the sheer fact that I grew up and was born in a political family.
Bollywood star kids would differ. They say it's so much of a burden. We have the burden of
yes, constantly having to
expectations.
smile, etc. And look, absolutely. I mean, who am I to knock down anyone else's mental health, etc. This kid, talking with an Indian American accent, talking about Jila Parishad elections, right, and helping candidates in Jila Parishad elections, that wouldn't have been possible if I literally was only just a kid from United States, right? It's been possible because I grew up, and to be clear, in a family of a political background that was independent.
Right.
So my father has contested and ran independent. So, we are the party, we are the cadre, we are the social media company, we are the Prashant Kishore, we are everything. The family is that, right? Now Haryana is different, but then it had a different kind of.
So you grew up abroad?
I was born and raised abroad.
Uh-huh.
So I went to kind of, middle of nowhere. So, when you say rural, I actually come from the two most random places in both countries. So Poonri, Haryana, not even a Gurgaon, not a Faridabad,
Right.
Poonri, which is about 55 kilometers from Kurukshetra, the biggest city around that area. And then I come from Arab, Alabama, which had a population of 4,000 people, where I made up the diversity.
Your work takes you to rural areas, like you said. You work at the panchayat level, working with the Panchayati Raj institutions. What is the biggest inspiration that aspiration and inspiration for rural youth that you've come across?
So I think for inspiration, so for them necessarily,
Yeah.
I don't want to generalize for them,
Okay.
right? But I know my inspiration are young people. Not to romanticize this by any means, but the fact that there can be so many issues as your daily life of an Indian citizen in rural India, and yet, you're still committed to the political life. You're still committed to doing something for society. You're still committed to your samaj. You're still committed to you're in basically in Haryana we have the patti system too.
Right.
So wahan pe you have these leaders that are coming out. So this kind of not communal, but still this focus on community is something that's so inspiring. Even though your own personal kind of life slash family might not be doing so well, but how is my community doing? How are my people doing? This has always been so inspiring to me, and look, things are not that great.
Yeah.
when you think about it, right? Has there been progress? I think so. It's incredible to see people with these smartphones in their hands, and not just having the accessibility, but being able to edit reels, being able to search up anything they want, to use WhatsApp to spread this. It's fascinating. It's very interesting, and it's also kind of inspirational in that way. But then the core things you're still missing out on. The fact that, are you actually workable, or do you have the skills to be doing anything other than agriculture or very low income paying jobs that are not necessarily trade or skill based? So those are things that we still need to work on. But the sheer fact that people have the audacity to dream and have seen a world much beyond than they could have even imagined,
Right.
in itself is very, very fascinating. I think it's increasingly enhanced that aspiration to dream about a world beyond them. And it's fascinating for me to see people firsthand, right, go through such treacherous, and we've all now seen Dunki. Yeah. But seeing that, I've been seeing this since 2014, 2015.
Right.
Taking these serious pathways just so you can clean someone else's toilets in the United States. Something that you wouldn't even do in your own home, right? So that, as someone who looks into young people and their aspirations, is very confounding.
So do you think that's a failure of India as a society, that is happening?
I think that's a failure of maybe not as a society, but come on, our birth rates, right? Our population. I think that we are what 1/3 of the largest country, right? And yet, what have 3 times to 4 times the population. How are you supposed to provide? What are you supposed to do? No matter what government interventions that you can think of, great, they're doing a good job, they're at it. Previous governments have tried, etc. You're not going to change society in that way. People are still going to feel that they've left out.
We've seen this unfold in Kerala several decades ago, when the whole Gulf, there were only grandparents and grandkids staying there, and the parents, both mother and father, would be working in the Gulf. So somewhere, do you think that the charm of migrating to urban India has kind of
well, if you can skip urban India, if you can skip urban India and go straight for a UK, and even though you're living in rural UK, by the way, like now, and one thing is, like, everyone thinks of SF or LA or whatever. Now there's no jobs there, so everyone is migrating to random places wherever they can illegally get a job, etc. So they're living in rural areas there
like
as well.
We say, there is no country without a rural area.
Absolutely. So I mean, they've gone from rural area and then skipped it to just rural America. So I mean, I think they've skipped that entirely, especially from Haryana and from Punjab, North India. I can't really comment on South India, etc.
Yeah.
I do think that there's still intermigration happening from Bihar, Jharkhand, etc.
Yeah.
The Haryana population that's going, is considered more of the workplace. They're the ones at the gas stations.
Yeah.
They're the ones at the motels. They're the ones that are at the alcohol convenience stores.
Yeah.
But the Telugu demographic,
Yeah.
those are the ones at Google. Those are the
Yeah.
ones at the engineering firm. They're the ones who are skilled labor
Yeah.
that is being sought after, that is using it legally in a documented way. So much so in the fact that actually, this is the first time. This is something that's interesting. Recently, Telangana just went through elections, and a 26-year-old was elected, and she actually had migrated to the United States, and she actually had student loans when she came back just now for the elections. So you see these people who lived in for the states, and then they're coming back. Unfortunately, I don't see that happening for a lot of these the people from North India. Because asylum issues, migrants, etc. And then you're not saving that much. There's no savings. People are just selling and moving. What are they going to come back to?
Right. Elections are around the corner now, and of course, your work is taking you to various areas to kind of spearhead this movement. What are your hopes after this?
So, the work that I do is giving more young people representation. So do I hope that whether it's the assemblies that will go to elections or in parliament, we will have a larger representation of parliamentarians and MLAs being elected? Absolutely. Do I wish that parties themselves will be more reflective, that even if they don't win, that more young people are nominated from political parties? Absolutely.
And young is a very, very blurry definition when it comes to political
Not
parties.
to me. Yeah, not to me. So when I say youth and when I say young, I have a certain age definition of below 29, which is the legal definition. So when I say, youth or young, I mean people below the age of 29. I mean that we need to be representing the 750 million people that are below the age of 29 in India. That is more than twice the demographic of the third most populous country, the United States. So I want more people reflective in that demographic, right? I want that, there be less barriers for young people to be able to participate. And we've seen that. Actually, Rajya Sabha introduced one of the committees led by Sushil Kumar Modi, introduced decreasing the age of candidacy from 21 to 18, right. 25 to 18, and 30 to 18. That's a big, big step. If there's one thing that I want in the 2024 elections, or a couple, is that young people are reflected. And the onus is on both the government and us. I'm not blaming the government or political parties, and I'm not, scapegoating young people as well. We need to get out there and prove that we vote. We need to have a record number of turnouts, which we've been having for the past two elections. 2014 and 2019 saw the most record number. We need to make sure that people realize that we are the largest voting bloc, which we are. People between 18 and 30 by far exceed any other demographic, right? We need to prove to them that we're listening and we want our issues to be heard. And then the political parties and the government needs to be, okay, this is the voting bloc, this is our demographic, we need to be more reflective and representative.
You said you want your issues to be heard, the issues of the youth to be heard. What are those issues?
So look, if I were in a mainstream media channel, I'd be like, jobs, this and that. Those are issues, right? But to another layer and degree is how representative are you? That is the primary issue. When I say job, right, it can't just be a sarkari job, or it can't be just a private job, or whatever the standard things that we've gotten used to. The market is changing, the economy is changing, the world is changing, things are developing. So what I would want is those issues also have developed. Look, I am 100% willing to bet that there are mental issues in rural India that people are also willing to talk about now, right? When are our politicians going to talk about it, right? The answer is just not jobs. And I think you actually see that from the government also saying is that, the answer is just not providing government jobs. You have to do something on your own. And, they focus a lot on entrepreneurship and skill development. But honestly, no matter how many skill development missions that the government or, for example, the United Nations keeps on doing, and it seems it's the most marketing, there's not much change happening, unfortunately. So I think that the array of issues is getting broader. I think that one of the larger things that we need to focus on is making sure that if we have representation, then the understanding that issues can resolve and revolve and be broad in this day and age. And I think that will be the first step in tackling all the issues that we hear about, whether it's unemployment, whether it's religious issues, communal tensions, whatever it is. but the layering of it changes and develops. And I think that those are the things that we need to focus on.
Thank you.